a soldier went to Jesus and pierced his side with a spear, and immediately blood and water flowed out. The Spear of Longinus, a weapon used to confirm the death of Jesus on the cross. The Spear of Destiny, sometimes known as the Holy Grail, a relic whose history and very existence are shrouded in a veil of mystery. The only definitive mention and description of the Spear of Longinus comes from what is considered its very first record, the Gospel of John. It is said to be called the Spear of Longinus, named after the Roman soldier who pierced him, a man named Longinus. Legend has it that Longinus was a soldier blind in his eyes, but at the moment he pierced Jesus, a drop of his blood splattered onto his eyes, and he could see again. Deeply moved, Longinus then converted to Christianity, and after his martyrdom, he was revered as Saint Longinus. Because of these legends, the Spear of Longinus came to be known as a holy relic possessing the dual powers of destruction and healing. A rumor was passed down from ancient times, through the Middle Ages and into the modern era, that whoever possessed it would gain the power of victory to conquer anyone or anything, and that its wielder could perform the miracle of healing any illness. According to legend, the Spear of Longinus is said to have passed through the hands of 45 rulers over a period of about 1,000 years. Its first known owner was the Roman Emperor, Constantine. It is said that during his life, he always carried the spear with him, like a talisman. And perhaps thanks to the spear's power, he accomplished the great feat of reunifying the divided Roman Empire. The second owner was General Charles Martel of the Carolingian dynasty. He was the man who saved Europe from the Islamic armies at Tours, France, in the year 732. Charles Martel later passed the Holy Lance on to his grandson. And that grandson was none other than Charlemagne, the first emperor to unite Europe. Thus, the Holy Lance became a symbol of power, passing through the hands of various emperors and gracing battlefields far and wide. Whether by coincidence or not, most of those who possessed the spear were, in fact, leaders who wielded immense power. It's also recorded that Napoleon, having heard the legend, scoured all of Europe searching for the spear, but ultimately failed to obtain it. The last known owner of the Spear of Longinus, after it wandered across the globe, was surprisingly Adolf Hitler, the leader of the Nazi Party during World War II. In 1912, while visiting the Hofburg Museum in Vienna, Austria, Hitler laid his eyes on the Spear of Longinus for the first time, a relic passed down through the royal family. After hearing the legend from the museum's curator at the time, Walter Stein, that whoever possessed this holy spear would become the ruler of the world, Hitler reportedly felt an intuition that this very moment would be the most important of his life. His obsession with the Spear of Longinus can also be found in his book, Mein Kampf, where he wrote, "Standing before the spear, the world around me faded into obscurity. Had I perhaps held this spear in my hands before, in some past century, merely gazing upon it, it felt as if I held the destiny of the world in my hands. This spear will lead me to a great destiny." Afterwards, Hitler visited the museum several times just to see the spear, and on some days, he reportedly suffered from dizziness the moment he laid eyes on it. He went beyond simply wanting it, he coveted it. That burning desire was finally fulfilled some 20 years later, in 1938, after annexing Austria by force and marching into Vienna. Hitler finally got his hands on the spear. And indeed, perhaps due to the power of the Holy Lance, Hitler went on to seize victory in every battle that followed, and the momentum of the Nazi army seemed to pierce the very heavens. But his world would not last long. On the 30th of April, 1945, Hitler ended his own life with a pistol inside a bunker in Berlin. And regarding this, a strange story is told. The moment the US Allied forces seized the Spear of Longinus from a Nazi vault beneath Nuremberg Castle, news of Hitler's death arrived. Afterwards, the Spear of Longinus was returned to its original owner, the Hofburg Museum in Vienna. In 2003, Dr. Robert Feather, a British metallurgist preparing a documentary on the Spear of Longinus, was given the opportunity to examine the Holy Lance himself. And so, for the first time since the World Wars, the Spear of Longinus left the museum and was taken to a laboratory. Through fluorescent X-ray analysis of the Holy Lance, a shocking fact was revealed. The age of the Spear of Longinus was estimated to be not from the ancient Roman era, but from around the 7th century. Not only its age, but the shape of the spear itself was also similar to those commonly used between the 7th and 9th centuries. If the spear's creation date is indeed after the 7th century, as the test results suggest, then the spear housed in the Hofburg Museum cannot be the true Spear of Longinus. However, Dr. Feather also raised another question about the spear. The specific characteristics of the spearhead were strangely different from a typical one. The spear was fashioned by adding a large nail into the middle of the blade, wrapping it with iron wire, and then covering it with a gold sheath. And the astonishing part is that the shape of that nail was a perfect match for those from the ancient Roman era. As scholars continued to research this, they uncovered a compelling local legend. Charlemagne did not possess the Holy Lance, but the Holy Nail. He placed that nail into an old spear, wrapped it with silver wire, covered it with a gold plate, and called it the Holy Lance. This record suggests that Charlemagne, known as the spear's third owner, for some unknown reason, possessed not the complete spear, but only a component of it, and by attaching it to an ordinary spear, he called it the Spear of Longinus. Although the source of this legend is unclear and opinions are still divided, if it were true, it would explain the chronological error of the Spear of Longinus. But this too is just a hypothesis, and the debate over the spear's authenticity has never ceased. In fact, an intriguing story regarding this was once published in a local Japanese newspaper by Gakuen. In early 1945, just before Hitler's surrender to the Allied forces, a German U-boat docked in a canyon in Antarctica, 400 kilometers from Argentina. Aboard this vessel was a 58-man death squad, including one of Hitler's most trusted confidants, Heinrich Himmler. They secretly hid an object that Hitler cherished dearly, deep inside an ice cave in Antarctica. Indeed, in 1974, a secret society called the Knights of the Holy Lance traveled to Antarctica to find that object, under the operation name Mission Antarctica. The leader, Hartmann, a devout follower of Hitler, was confident he had precise information about its location, and they did, in fact, discover a steel door inside a cave in Antarctica. Inside, it is said, there was a bronze-colored spear with a red leather handle. But today, the whereabouts of not only the spear, but also of the people who claimed to have found it, remain a complete mystery. To this day, this shocking and incredible story is still hotly debated. Opinions are divided, ranging from a revelation by an anonymous insider to a fictional story embellished for entertainment. Did Hitler truly hide the Spear of Longinus in a secret Antarctic base? If so, what is the true identity of the Knights of the Holy Lance who claimed to have found it? Besides the spear kept in the Hofburg Museum and the one from Hitler's Antarctic tale, there are many other candidates for the Spear of Longinus. In total, there are 3 physical candidates for the spear that survive to this day. The Vatican lance, kept in the crypt of St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, and the Ekmiadzin lance, preserved in the religious capital of Vakharshapat, Armenia. And if you include the spears known only through records and folklore like the one discovered by Peter the Hermit during the Crusades, or the one that appears as the Fisher King's spear in the legend of King Arthur, the number grows exponentially. The Catholic Church has not designated any of them as authentic and maintains no standard record beyond the verses in the Bible. Among the countless records, does a passage about the true Holy Lance actually exist? Some people have this to say about the Holy Lance: the Spear of Longinus. A spear that killed God, a spear that led to war, a spear that tempts those blinded by a lust for divine power. How can an object with such a cruel history be called a holy relic? Among all the figures who possessed the spear, where is the one who performed a miracle of healing? Should we call it a holy relic or a demonic one? This has been the Repository of Wonders.